Your Excellency, let me now invite the Minister of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, Dr. David Senga, the Deputy Minister of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, the Permanent Secretary, to come forward and receive their Presidential Award for Best Performing Ministry for 2020 from His Excellency the President. A round of applause, please.
Dr. David Marina Senga, the Minister of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, his Deputy and Permanent Secretary are receiving the award as one of the recipients for the best performing ministries for this year. For this first process, should I say, first assessment, please. Please, they take their leave now.
So moving on. Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is again my privilege and honor to announce on behalf of His Excellency the President, the best performing ministry for 2020. The recipient is the Ministry of Finance. Round of applause. The citation. What has this ministry done to merit the distinction of best performing ministry? Again, without disclosing the scores of the confidential performance management, the ministry was graded as outstanding in the 2020 ministerial performance management exercise. The minister and the ministerial leadership provided effective leadership in the management of the economy during the very difficult and stressful global COVID-19 pandemic. The minister and the ministerial leadership restored international confidence in the management of the economy and fiscal probity. What is more, the minister and the ministerial leadership introduced and implemented the COVID-19 Quick Action Rapid Economic Recovery with a 50 billion Bank of Sierra Leone credit facility to support the availability of essential commodities at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Colleague ministers, you will recall that last year and at the height of the COVID-19, we did not have any shortage of all the essential commodities needed in this country. The minister and the ministerial leadership provided impressive external donor resource mobilization of $380 million between January and October 2020, which made it possible for public sector salaries to be paid and to be paid on time, the provision of essential services such as electricity, water, roads infrastructure development, and in fact provided $420 billion for NACOVA COVID-19 response. And to ease the burden of the negative socio-economic impact of the COVID-19 on the poor and vulnerable groups, the Ministry of Finance provided cash transfers to 11,000 persons with disability and 29,000 informal sector workers across the country. What is more, the minister and the ministerial leadership, they have just developed the National Microfinance Program, the MUNAFA form, which will be launched soon for SMEs across the country by His Excellency the President. Your Excellency, please permit me to invite the Minister of Finance, the Deputy Minister of Finance, the Deputy Minister of Finance, Mr. Sheikh Almura, and the Financial Secretary to come forward and receive the Presidential Award for Best Performing Ministry for 2020 from His Excellency the President.
Alright, a team of 4 been called upon from the Ministry of Finance. The Minister himself, Jacob Joseph Safar, his 2 deputy ministers and the Financial Secretary are now headed to the President, who is waiting. Of course, they are there now to hand over the award to them, the Ministry of Finance. I know this is going to spark a whole lot of debate, but yes, the Ministry of Finance is one of the recipient ministries for best performing ministries in 2021 in the height of COVID.
Another round of applause.
The height of COVID.
Minister of Finance and his leadership team.
Alright, that's it.
Finally,
And the last ministry.
it is my privilege and honor to announce for and on behalf of His Excellency the President, the best performing ministry for 2020, and this time it is a joint award to NACOVAC and the Ministry of Health and Sanitation. The citation, why NACOVAC and the Ministry of Health and Sanitation. The leadership of NACOVAC and the Ministry of Health and Sanitation provided impressive leadership team. And this impressive leadership created the opportunity for the management of the COVID-19 preparedness and response at the national level with effective laboratory, case management, surveillance, and operations pillar. NACOVAC and the Ministry of Health and Sanitation provided relatively good social mobilization campaign and enforcement of COVID-19 social distancing and hygiene protocols. And in the process, NACOVAC and the Ministry of Health have developed a credible national public health emergency response infrastructure, and as well as have shifted the emergency response to post-emergency public health system strengthening. So due to COVID-19 and the impressive leadership provided by NACOVAC, and in particular the impressive leadership of His Excellency the President in providing the framework and the policy directives for the early response and the nationwide response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the American government CDC listed Sierra Leone as one of 4 countries in Africa where travel and health risks are low as a result of effective leadership. Your Excellency, let me now invite Brigadier Kelly Conte, who I understand is unavoidably available, so I will invite the Deputy Interim National Coordinator, also serving as the Deputy Minister of Finance too, Mr. Jacob Angora. I also understand that the former Minister of Health is unavoidably absent. I will invite the Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Sandy, now serving as the Acting Minister of Health, to come forward. And also invite the Deputy Minister of Health too, Dr. Gambai, and the Permanent Secretary. Please come forward to receive your well-deserved joint award for the best performing agency for 2020 from His Excellency the President.
Right, so the team works from NACOVAC and the Ministry of Health and Sanitation. As the Ministry of NACOVAC jointly is one of 3 recipients of the top performing ministries for 2021. President is handing over. Pictures are being taken.
Another round of applause, please, for this great award.
Sanitation. Right. That's it.
Honorable Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me now invite the Honorable Minister of Finance to make a statement for and on behalf of the successful recipients of the 2020 Presidential Award for Best Performing Ministry. The Minister of Finance.
The Minister of Finance is making his way to make a statement. Jacob Jusu Safa. Jacob Jusu Safa is making his way up to the podium to make a statement as one of the 3 ministries that received the award.
Your Excellency, Chief Minister, colleague Minister, good afternoon to you. I feel highly honored and privileged to witness and to benefit the very first presidential award in this country. On behalf of the best ministries and my colleague ministers, all present here, let me take the opportunity to thank you, Your Excellency, Retired Brigadier Dr. Julius Madabio, for making history today. This is historic. It's in the new direction. It's what you promised, it's what you have done. So can you. It's motivational. One thing I can tell you, we are going to have a challenge on 2021 to award this prize. Everybody here is determined. I do recognize the centrality of my role as Minister of Finance to provide the resources. I do recognize the fact that some institutions may not get the resources, not on time necessarily. I do also recognize there are overlaps here and there. I also recognize police also make a lot of effort to access other resources from other institutions. Personally, I'm part of all glories. The award given to the Ministry of Education, I'm part of that because I provided the resources. You are part of the award given to the Ministry of Finance. You have the chairman of the economic management team. And let me say thank you very much for the guidance in economic management. You, the Vice President, who is not here, and the Honorable Chief Ministers, who have put us under serious pressure to do the right thing. Your Excellency, performance is not a one-man business. It does not depend on the minister alone. The ministers set the strategic agenda, the vision, provide the resources and the necessary supervision. It depends on the technical competence of the institution. It depends on the administrative efficiency of the institutions. It's a teamwork. Everybody should be privileged to the information. Everybody should be able to step in when someone is out. In the case of the Ministry of Finance, Your Excellency, every time I'm out of the country, the Deputy Minister steps in. Even when I'm in the country, she steps in. Because she has actually taken over parliamentary functions from us. Because she's been doing it efficiently. My deputy two, or the deputy two who went to NAPOVAC, were a very good engagement. And with the financial secretary, we are always arguing, we are always disagreeing to agree. But what is clear, we are very clear on the agenda. We are very clear on the direction we want to go. Government spending will go where we are promised it should go. So those who might not have been awarded at this stage, let me just say, it's not to say you are not doing anything. This is just the beginning of the process. And let me publicly apologize for those who who might, for some reason, have not have received resources on time to do what we think we should have done. And promise going forward to keep engaging, to keep putting the concept together, to keep looking for the resources. Your Excellency, let me also thank the Chief Minister for the painstaking process he has undertaken, not only process-based, but an output-based process. He will be criticized, the administration will be criticized, but that's part of it. I'm sorry, it's difficult to choose among many, a few among many. But the fact remains, this is historic, this will go down in history, it's motivational, and it's the right direction. Thank you.
That's the statement from Jacob Justice of the Minister of Finance on
Thank you. A lot of applause again for the Minister
Ministries.
of Finance, who has been the engine for the ministries to perform and to deliver. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my singular privilege to invite His Excellency the President and Commander-in-Chief to give the keynote address at the Maiden Presidential Award for Best Ministry 2020. His Excellency the President, please. A round of applause, please.
The President
Applause for His Excellency the
is
President.
about to make his statement. President Dr. Julius Maada Bio.
The Chief Minister, Ministers of Government, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today, we are here to start a new process, a process to recognize and acknowledge, a process that incentivizes, a process that motivates, a process that we engender collective action for the national good. I want to start by thanking each and every one of you, ministers of government, deputy ministers, and also the civil servants that are here today. We have deliberately brought in the civil servants because they are part of this administration. Most times we accuse them of not being in haste because of their own organizational culture. We have to be in haste as politicians because we are time bound. We expire after the moment. And at the point of that expiration, we should be able to explain to the nation why we should continue to live. Because the civil service is permanent, and most of you go to permanent sectors today, they are never in haste because they are permanent. We know we are not permanent. There is a clear line of conflict there. So what I am doing today is to use this opportunity to thank each and every one of you, civil servants and also ministers of government, for the great work that we have done and the achievements in a very short time. The Chief Minister named quite a lot of achievements at a time when the whole world under the grip of the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot has gone wrong around the country, the world. But during this extremely difficult moment, we have achieved major milestones as a country, as an administration, and this is as a result of the cumulative impact of everything that all of you have done. This is the beginning. I cannot give everybody this recognition, but I want to acknowledge here as I stand here that all of you have done relatively well. If we are not so, we could not have qualified for the MCC combat. The MCC is multidisciplinary. It is never a product of an individual ministry or person. Other countries are still struggling. We have been around only for 3 years, and we have gotten it. That is because all of you have made an input. We could not have been recognized around the world as a nation that has been able to put together a very effective system, response system to COVID-19. Others are struggling to keep their heads above water. We have been recognized and acknowledged around the world for our response. And this is no mean achievement, nor is it the accomplishment of any one individual. All of you have made an input into our response and continue to make an input into that. That is why I will say a big thank you to all of you. There are so many things for which you have been recognized around the world. For the very first time in the history of this country, the CNN has had to cite Sierra Leone 3 times in a row for our leadership in handling COVID-19, even putting us ahead of the great United States of America and many other countries around the world. This is the cumulative impact of all of you, with what you have done. The APRM has had good things to say about this country. We are being recognized around the world. And one thing I promised this nation was, we will regain our place in the Committee of Nations under this leadership. Gradually, under difficult circumstances, and because of your commitment, we are beginning to be recognized as a serious country, notwithstanding very serious circumstances we find ourselves in. So you've given me the hope to believe that Sierra Leone can reinvent itself using Sierra Leoneans. I have challenged you, and I know there is something in all of you that can bring the best out of Sierra Leone. So, in as much as only a few ministries have been recognized, I want you to recognize the great work that all of you have done over the past 3 years. Our challenge and burden is we took over at a very difficult time. We have a humongous task ahead of us in all ministries and departments. Make no mistake about that. But we cannot keep grumbling about the enormity of the task that we have. Our business is to find solutions. Our business for the most of 2 years was actually to hire the best. And in a very difficult year, COVID-19 2020, we have started to lay the foundation stones for our own social programs. Ladies and gentlemen, that is extremely difficult. That is for you to recognize how much you have done in a short time. And that is for you, and that is to challenge you In many conversations, people say, if you do not make this country, we are finished. For me, that is fearful. It is indeed a huge challenge. We don't want to go down in history as a generation of leaders that failed, not because we failed, but because we failed to clear the mess that has been created by so many. Because we were not able to get our heads around some of the most difficult issues that confront our nation today. Not because we are weak, not because we are corrupt, but because we have not been able to clear the mess of others. That is a huge, a tall order, a huge task. But that is what we have been faced with, and that is what we have to deal with. I'm happy the civil servants are here. The culture of delivery, the culture of performance should not just stop with the political appointees. I want the civil service of Sierra Leone to be exemplary as it has always been in the past. We were admired around the world and in West Africa as having the best civil service. Make no mistake about it, you can have good politicians, bad politicians, but you are there all the time. If you take on this challenge, you can guide the political appointees. The challenge we have is we have to fix our country. Nobody is going to do it for us. And you are at the center of it. So today you are here to witness this because the ministers would not have succeeded. The political leadership would not have succeeded without your input. I want you to cascade that to the lower levels, echelons of the civil service. That we need you, that we have to change this culture. We have to deliver. You cannot go to the office without a plan. You cannot sit in the office of your week without a plan. Luckily for us, we're purposefully, because we are not just fighting this administration. The new direction was not just fighting for power, but we are eager to be agents of change. We planned our entry and we planned what we should do when we get in. So we do not just have a manifesto that we have been religiously obedient to, but we also developed very quickly in this administration the medium-term national development plan. And we have said human capital development is a priority. Yeah, we need to develop everything in this country. But human capital development, we have said, has a multiplier effect and can help us achieve the other sustainable development goals. And for the African Union Agenda 2063. So, we have to forge a relationship. We must get out of our slumber. Many have blamed the civil servants, but I think you can do a great deal if we provide the leadership and the motivation. And that is what we are doing today. Next year, or this year, I am sure, and I'll be very proud to give many more, or recognize many more ministries. You have done a great deal. You are on the brink of breaking into this. For many of you, I know what you've been doing. And you can rest assured that the Minister of Finance remediates financially by providing the necessary resources for you to accomplish some of your goals. We provide the necessary resources at the time needed. So that is important. Where you have stumbling blocks, you can always count on me. We should not rely on excuses and explanations. We should find a way to deliver. The nation has resigned its destiny to this crop of leadership. For me, that is a huge burden to carry, but I'm used to carrying it. And I want us, you and I, to share the credit at the end of the day. That once upon a time, a couple of politicians were able to provide the leadership necessary to bring Sierra Leone back from the brink of collapse. We are no longer the country to be stigmatized by the war or by the Ebola or by Corona. We have shown the world that we have in us what it takes to provide leadership. And you know, leadership is best demonstrated in times of difficulty. Not when it's all easy. That is what you and I have done at this point in time. When many cannot, we have stood out as a nation that has provided quality leadership for the sake of the people of this country. Of course, you should not be blinded by the many criticisms. It's all part of politics. I can say with every degree of certainty that we are a better nation today than we were 3 years ago. That credit goes to all of us. So today's event should serve to inspire each and every one of you, not only the political leadership, but I hope the permanence of the senior civil servants here will really cascade this message to their juniors, that we rely on them in the process of making Sierra Leone a relevant actor again, to provide or establish a delivery culture, to perform. We have made in our new direction manifesto a lot of pledges. We have accomplished quite a lot, and even more that we are not contained in there. We have the medium-term national development plan. We must deliver and work according to that plan, because that has provided us with a blueprint. We should not just get up and go to the office and make it a routine, just sit down there and go back home. We have a direction, a new direction, which requires us to be transparent, accountable, and corrupt-free. Talking about corruption, we have changed the culture. We must change that culture entirely. Corruption must be stamped out. It is not good for our national interest, nor for our image as a nation. That is why even the NCC on 2 occasions have had to graduate our score. Why? Because we are all fighting together to change that terrible image of being one of the most corrupt countries in the world, and therefore one of the poorest. So, like the Chief Minister said, the NCC score is a validation of what all of us have been doing. the compact eligibility is a validation of the great work that all of us have done. And we have to know that it's not just what is coming to us in terms of when we have developed a compact. It is the fact that one of the most rigorous processes you can go through is the MCC process. To even develop a compact itself, which we are on now, is an extremely difficult process. If we can be compact eligible, we can develop a compact very soon. But what is more important is the fact that once we are compact eligible, it is telling the whole world, especially key financial institutions around the world, that Sierra Leone is once more ready. It's open for business. That is what is more important than even the quantum of money that is going to be given to Sierra Leone. Before, our image was such that nobody is willing to be with us. They say we travel quite a lot. We have to clean up our image. I remember going to Japan where we were told we cannot go into a particular hotel because the former government left a huge debt there. That is as simple as how it was. Very embarrassing. All other countries had their own rooms booked and we were refused in far as Japan, the end of the world. That was how terrible our image was. Today, the MCC compact is telling the whole world something is happening in that small country. Pay attention. You can look up to them again. Such a huge reputational damage we've had to repair cannot be done by a person, by an individual. It is our collective responsibility and what we have done. And that is why I want you to see this occasion today as an occasion to incentivize you, especially beginning another new year. I wanted to have this occasion towards the end of last year, but because of the many things that cropped up, we were not able to do that. So ladies and gentlemen, I say to you, big thank you. You are never going to get the recognition, but I know, having had a stint in governance before, that one day, in our old ages, you will go down and people will smile at you and say, thank you for saving the soul of Sierra Leone. That is what you are doing. That is what we are doing. And that is, we need to do more of that. Sierra Leone should be a different country, a better country. Sierra Leone will be admired again. And that is the challenge that you have. What can you do in your ministries, in your agencies, to make sure that Sierra Leone, a small West African nation, will become the envy of the world again? That is the task we have. And today, I'm not only encouraging you, but also challenging you. What is your role going to be in making Sierra Leone a beautiful bright spot on the West African coast? We are people who want to come again for education. We are people who want to come again to learn lessons. People want to know how we are able to settle our differences after 11 years of bloody civil war. People want to come and know, how did you put your response together to COVID-19? How were you able to come back as a nation that was almost forgotten about? So we have a lot of challenges, ladies and gentlemen, but I know we have what it takes to surmount all of those challenges. So at the beginning of this year, I thought that we should go through this again. In your quiet moments, you become overwhelmed and completely taken, away because of the enormity of the task and the challenges that face us on a regular basis. But no one else from around the world is going to solve this problem. We are going to do it. I'm ready to provide that quality of leadership. You can always lean on my shoulder as we go through this extremely difficult moment. On behalf of the whole of the administration, I want to thank you, ministers. I want to thank you, senior civil servants, that the nation, and to assure you that the nation is looking up to us to solve the many challenges that is holding back this society. We can and we should. That is the challenge we have. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much. Let's rise with a round of applause for His Excellency, the President, for such a message of hope, motivation, and inspiration. Please be seated. Like the President said to those who are the recipients, you see, keep on the momentum. If you're not been fortunate, work harder. 2021 awaits you. On that note, once again, on behalf of the President, we want to thank all the ministers, deputy ministers, and permanent secretaries for your presence on this occasion. And I invite all of us to rise for the national anthem and the departure of His Excellency the President. National anthem, please. Please remain standing for the departure of His Excellency the President. Thank you very much, ministers.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the President has departed. The President has departed. The President has left, and we are about to engage those who've been awarded. You see the Chief Minister is currently being engaged. We have the Minister of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, David Moina Senge. We have the Minister of Finance, Jacob Jusu Safar, and the Ministry of Health and NACOVAC jointly. So 3 recipients for 2021 best performing ministries. Best performing ministries. 3 recipients. And so Jojo Safar, we want to speak to the Minister of Finance and get his view with regards to the performance of his ministry, especially in the midst of criticisms. His ministry has really come under the spotlight of criticism, and he's been accused of not being able to manage the economy of the country, to manage the economy of the country. And so will try to get him and let him speak to the people of Sierra Leone. And so here comes Jacob Jususafa, the Minister of Finance, one of the full recipients for the top performing ministries for 2020. Good afternoon and welcome to AYV, Mr. Minister.
Yeah, good afternoon, Samuel.
Can we just turn this way? Yeah, that's the camera. You're one of the recipients of the top performing ministries and ministers for 2020. How much of elation do you feel at this point?
Well, I feel good. I feel confident generally. I'm a man of self-esteem. I know we are on the right track. And to award the Minister of Finance one of the best performing ministries speaks volumes, because you are talking about the rest of the economy. Whatever happens every year, the Minister of Finance shares part of the glory. So I know the new direction is ours, and we appreciate it.
This comes at a time when I'm pretty sure if you follow the social media, there are a lot of criticisms about how Jacob Jususafa cannot manage the economy effectively, and your manifesto promise effective management of the state and its resources. Does this negate those criticisms?
How could it? I mean, there's relative stability, inflation is dropping, salaries are paid on time, external resources are coming in, economic activities are booming up. The fact remains, you'll be so poor to the extent some people are going to stay poor for some time to come. That's the reality. But the reality is that some people who are making effort, who will be given some opportunities, are making it. We should not create an impression that the poverty is going to go away by tomorrow. I always say that poverty is going to be here for long. Because the current figures we have, there's no magic. Whether you have the best president of anywhere in the world, cannot change Sierra Leone in 2 years' time or in 5 years' time. But we are very sure our reforms are going to reward us. And over the years, I promise you that we maintain some stability. Now we're moving towards diversification of the economy, focusing on tourism, focusing on agriculture, focusing on fisheries, focusing on the mining sector. The mining sector is going to start picking up. We're going to develop the infrastructure that is required for those take off. The infrastructure, energy, electricity is all these three capital towns, side by side with our flagship programs. So we know exactly. I mean, public spending is tailored around the manifesto commitment. We are delivering our manifesto commitment. And like what the Chief Minister said, 29 to 30 manifesto commitments are either be delivered or on track. But we even have more things we deliver which we never promise. So, I mean, people will say things. We are living in a democracy, and it's good for people to say things. That keeps us going. But the good thing is that we belong to the BO School of Politics. We still focus. We'll keep our eyes on the ball.
Quickly, before you take your leave, other ministries would want to say, the Minister of Finance did not allocate resources to us timely to implement our project so that we would have gained this recognition by the President. And you also apologize for that not happening. What is responsible?
But the reality is that resources are scarce. You don't have all the resources. That is not completely untrue. I mean, for some people not to perform the way they would like to perform, you cannot distract me from that. But I only distribute or allocate or disburse what I have. We know the COVID was impacted us, so that even affected the cash flow. Over the period, we were able to mobilize resources and we prioritize it. So everything was changed. The supplementary budget was done, which means the 2020 budget that was done was altered. So, I mean, as I said, I'm sorry that did not happen, but that's just the reality.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister.
Thank you.
All right, we now have the supervisor of that particular process, the ministerial performance contract, the Chief Minister, Professor Francis Kaikai. David Francis, I beg your pardon. Good afternoon, welcome to AYV, Prof.
Thank you.
Prof, first off, what came to mind when this initiative to assess the performance of government ministers was picked up by this regime?
Well, it was a very deliberate strategy on the part of His Excellency the President that for any government to function and to deliver for the people, it has to go through a process of periodic performance management and review. This is what we do even in schools. We do it at universities, even at homes. You look at your children and you support them and then you grow to be fantastic people. So as a government, the President made it a priority that we have to do ministerial performance management. And it's on a quarterly basis every 3 months. And throughout the year, we started in 2019. We've done a very successful performance management of all the ministers, and the results are there transparently. We've completed the same process for 2020 in the transparent process. What is this about? It's to make sure that what the president has promised to the people in the social contract, it will be delivered to the people. That is the only way to hold all of us accountable, the ministers, the chief minister. Even though I supervise and I monitor, my role is being supervised by the vice president in the first instance and the president. So I have two bosses that I have to always make sure that I am on my toes. So that is what this whole performance management is about. It's to build a delivery routine so that developing and delivering services of the people, for the people, building schools, hospitals, roads, making sure that essential items are in the market, rice and palm oil, etc. It's about delivery. So it becomes automatic, that delivery routine, so that over a period of time it becomes a delivery culture. This is why the Western governments are different from us, because they have this delivery routine which has become a delivery culture. It doesn't matter who is in government, everybody does it because that's the standard operating procedure. So this is what the president wants to do, and he said it's about efficient political and economic management of the state. To do that, you have to develop a delivery routine and a delivery culture.
When you were making your statement, you highlighted three criteria that you were looking for. The first one has to do with performance management, and you also talk about how tough are you to make decisions, proactively as a minister. So in all of these, were these criteria in public, or are the public members of the public being involved in the assessment process of these ministries, because they have to fill it, and the social services you're talking about to deliver effectively, they have to impact the members of the public?
Well, the ministries interface with the public. That is normal. So that is part of, because we are aware, whatever we do, the people have their own perception of evaluation. How we evaluate the government is very different from how an Okado driver or a Keke rider will evaluate the government. So what we are trying to do, we listen. This is a listening government. So through the ministries, they engage with the people in terms of the service delivery. So in the three criteria we said, one is the ministerial performance management, which is something, an undertaking signed for and on behalf of His Excellency the President by all the ministers. And the second aspect is the ability for a minister or a ministry to take controversial decisions. In governance, you have to take controversial decisions, and sometimes very difficult decisions, but it must be for and in the interest of the ordinary people of this country. And thirdly, you must have the ability, the integrity and the courage to see through that difficult decision. So that's what we said. So we have not just said performance management, which is the usual, but we said in addition, and I can tell you, look at the Ministry of Basic Education. They took a controversial decision of pregnant girls in school. So for the first time, we see the international community are no longer talking about that. And I could tell you, when we go out on these international programs, they constantly have their agenda, and they will interrogate His Excellency the President, why are you not rescinding the ban on pregnant girls in school? So the Minister of Basic and Senior Secondary Education took that controversial decision, took it to cabinet, it went through cabinet, and it was a very difficult decision. But he had the courage and the integrity to see that through. And in the last public examination, we saw that that was a very successful program. That's an example. The same for the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance, at the height of COVID-19, the decision was that, but look, COVID-19 is going to affect us badly, but it is even going to affect the ordinary people more. So this quick, rapid response economic program has benefited ordinary people. At the height of the COVID, we did not see the absence of essential commodities. Imagine if that were to happen at the height of COVID-19. It would be a catastrophe in this country. But that has not happened. And also cash transfers, 11,000 to disabled people, 29,000 to informal sector workers, from the factory workers to hoteliers, etc. Those people who have lost their jobs, not out of their own making, but because of the impact of COVID-19. This is what they call Combra government.
Prof, quickly before leaving you, does this influence cabinet reshuffle, owing to the fact that there are top performing ministries and there are ministries that are not being recognized, in that category?
That is a decision for His Excellency the President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that's the supervisor of this entire assessment process, and we also await to engage the Minister of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. The Minister of Basic and Senior Secondary Education is one of 3 recipients of the free top performing ministries for 2020, as announced by President Julius Maada Bio. And the reason for all of this, as you've heard from the Chief Minister, is to ensure that effective service delivery is achieved. That is enhanced for the people of Sierra Leone. So we're still here at State House trying to get Dr. David Moina Senge. He was the first to be called by the Chief Minister on behalf of the President, and of course he was the first minister to receive the award as top performing minister for 2023. And some of the things that were highlighted for the reason for his award has to do with overturning the controversial ban on pregnant girls, limited issue of examination malpractice even at the height of COVID, and the President cited that to his knowledge there was no infection in school even when the country took a decision to reopen school in the height of COVID. But he's there. Good afternoon, welcome, Doc.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
How much of elation do you feel at this point? I mean, you're the first to even receive the award as the top performing ministry.
I'm very proud, and I'm proud for my team. I think we have a large team. The students are part of my team, the teachers are part of my team, the principals are part of my team, the new inspectors of schools, the DDs, the directors. So I feel that we have a large team, and they've all been contributing a little bit in small and significant ways. And I'm proud of their commitments, and also my deputy minister, my PS, my directors are all fantastic, and we work a lot in that ministry. So it's good that hard work pays.
How much of a challenge does this put on you and your team at this point in time? Because you oversee a very challenging sector that even your predecessor, once said that sector is in a sorry state of affairs, education. So how much of a challenge does this put on you and your team?
I think a lot, but they say good work brings more work. So I think we're excited about the work, and we know that there will be more work for us. I think the biggest challenge is humans. The biggest challenge is if somebody to change people is difficult, and I think in education as a sector we need to change many people over a long period of time. We need to change how perspective of some teachers are, some principals, parents, students, society, and that's over one day. It takes a long time to change people's thinking. And I think that's the challenge, really, is that usually if you have a short time and you just want to do something, it's easy to come and build something here and you see it. But to change education requires years. It takes investments over a long period of time. And usually people don't have patience for that. But that's why we know that this is not a political thing. We believe that education is the way in which we can develop this country. And we truly believe that.
Doc, let's talk about the teachers. That was also cited as part of the reasons for you being among the top free performing ministries. The Chief Minister cited that 5,000 teachers have been recruited, you retained about 7,000 and things like this, but there is still challenge in that sector. So how do you hope to improve on that?
I think we have to digitize and be honest and be transparent. One of the things that we've done this year is we published the names of all the teachers who were paid to the school. And then last month, we saw that one principal came to say, oh no, that person does not work in my school, and we see this happening more and more. If we are transparent with data, then the society will help us, because there are many people who are paid to teach, but they are not teaching. So if we publish your name, then the parents should be the ones to come to tell us that that person, they know the teacher and that, The thing with pin codes as well, the other day a principal wrote to me to say one Mr. Kamara has now wholly changed his name to Mr. Bangura. And it's difficult because I know it's not, that man did not change. Something was wrong. And I think and we digitize, it will be difficult. People will not like us, and it's not a lot. We recruited 5,000, but it's only about 100 people or less who have these problems. They do matter, but it's not a major problem, and that's because we focused on the civil registration, focused on a whole bunch of different things.
All right, celebration. Let's leave it to thank you for that conversation.
Thank you.
Antonia, there you have it. We've spoken to the Chief Minister, the Supervisor. We've spoken to the Minister of Finance, Jacob Jusu Safa. We've also spoken to Dr. David Moina Senge, the Minister of Basic and Senior Education. And of course, we couldn't speak to the Minister of Health as at the time this assessment was done because he is unavoidably absent. Dr. Alpha Wuri, who is now the Minister of Higher and Technical Education, and of course that was a joint award. Yeah, Antonia. Honestly, I think it's a very great initiative to be able to assess whether or not government officials are performing. And this is the first in within the governance structure of Sierra Leone. So I think many people would want to say kudos to the president for this brilliant initiative. But again, the challenge is what are the specifics in terms of indicators that are being used to assess these individuals? Like you mentioned, like the Chief Minister mentioned when I asked him about even the ordinary Sierra Leoneans' involvement in the assessment process. He mentioned that the ministries are interfacing with the general public, but the way the ordinary Sierra Leonean would want to assess a minister is different from what they would look out for. So I think if the indicators are sent out to the public and also get Sierra Leoneans, ordinary Sierra Leoneans' involvement in this assessment process, then it will be an excellent move that officials and ministers would know that they are servant, they are here to serve the people, and at the end of the day, the people would have to assess their performance, and if they meet a scoring a passing mark, then it's kudos for them to retain their job, but when they fail, then they know they would have to be replaced. But on the whole, the initiative is really a brilliant one, and it's very unique within the governance structure of Sierra Leone. Yeah. Yes, almost all of the recitations that were done by the Chief Minister for the free performing ministries, of course, they are all evident. The Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, for example, it was visible when the previous regime decided not to allow pregnant girls into mainstream schooling. Advocates were all over the place, and even internationally, there was this talk about us depriving our young girls, our women, from their fundamental right, which is right to education. But when this minister took over, he was very bold and was very vocal in overturning that decision, and he had the support from cabinet. So, which at the end of the day, we saw the mainstreaming the schooling system of pregnant girls. And from what you've heard from him, it turned out to be a success.